My name's Rachel. I'm 31 years old, single, and after 8 long years of saving every dime, skipping vacations, and brown bagging lunch to work, I finally bought my first place. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't in some shiny new high-rise downtown. It was a 950 square foot fixer-upper in an older building on the outskirts of town, but it was mine. My own front door, my own kitchen, my own mortgage. For me, that was everything. I still remember the phone call that started it all. My best friend Amber, who's been a realtor for over a decade, called me up one morning. "Rachel," she said, "I've got a place that just hit the market. The owners are moving to Texas and desperate to sell it's priced way below market." Of course, I was skeptical. If something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. But I asked her to send me the details. She did. And when I saw the photos and the listing price, my jaw dropped. It was almost 50% cheaper than anything else in the area. The catch? It needed a full overhaul. Outdated kitchen, ancient bathroom, scratched up hardwood floors, and walls that hadn't seen fresh paint since the Reagan administration. But here's the thing, I'm not afraid of work. My dad taught me how to use a power drill before I learned how to parallel park. I actually enjoy getting my hands dirty. Painting? Love it. Sanding floors? Therapeutic. Give me a weekend and a Home Depot run, and I'm in my element. I told Amber I wanted to see it in person. The next day, we walked through the place. It was rough, no sugarcoating that. The previous owners had clearly checked out years ago. But despite the dust and cracked tiles, I saw potential. It had big south-facing windows, solid bones, and most importantly, space, actual space. Not like the 400 square foot studio I'd been renting. "I think I'm crazy," I said. "But I want it." The mortgage process? A nightmare. Paperwork, delays, more paperwork. But I pushed through, and when I finally held those keys in my hand, I couldn't stop smiling. I had done it. Me. No cosigner, no handouts, no help. I decided to keep it a secret from my family, not because I was hiding anything, but because I wanted to surprise them. I thought they'd be proud. My parents, David and Karen, are traditional, hardworking folks. My sister, Megan, the golden child, got married 5 years ago in a wedding my parents shelled out $30,000 for. They also gave her and her husband Jason $15,000 for their down payment. Meanwhile, I've been flying solo since I graduated college. But it never really bothered me until it did. The night I closed, I didn't sleep. I just sat on the bare floor of my new place, looking at the empty rooms and imagining where everything would go. I was finally going to build something of my own, without asking anyone for anything. And that should have been the beginning of something beautiful. But as I would soon find out, not everyone was happy for me. That first weekend in my apartment, I didn't bring in furniture. I didn't unpack boxes. I just sat cross-legged on the floor, turning slow circles in each empty room, imagining what color I'd paint the walls, where my little bistro table would go. How I'd finally have a spice rack that didn't hang off a rental cabinet with command strips. It was peaceful. It was mine. I decided to share the news the following Saturday. It felt right. Megan and Jason were always at my parents' house for dinner. Mom usually made her signature pot roast, and everyone would sit around the table, pretending to be a Hallmark family. I figured that night would be perfect to make my big announcement, drop the photos, let them soak in the surprise, maybe even get a little toast in my honor. I pulled into my parents' driveway just before dessert. The scent of roast beef, gravy, and fresh-baked apple pie practically hit me before I even stepped out of the car. Comfort food from childhood. It almost made me forget how nervous I was. "Rachel." My mom smiled, wiping her hands on a towel as she came to hug me. "You're just in time for pie." We sat around the table, everyone passing around plates and joking about something Jason had said. I was barely listening. My hands were sweating. My heart was thudding so loud I could feel it in my ears. Halfway through my slice, I set down my fork and blurted, "I have something to tell you." Fork stopped clinking. Megan raised an eyebrow. Jason looked mildly bored. Dad paused, mid-sip of his coffee. "I bought an apartment." Silence. Complete, soul-sucking silence. You could have heard the clock ticking in the hallway. Mom was the first to break it. Rachel, she said slowly, why on earth wouldn't you tell us ahead of time? We could have advised you. Warned you. Warned me? I laughed awkwardly, still trying to keep it light. I wanted it to be a surprise, something fun to share. Look, I pulled out my phone and flipped to the photos, proud of what I saw even if it was still a work in progress. I handed it to Megan first. She took one glance and let out a snort, not the amused kind, the condescending kind. Wow, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm convinced. You have absolutely no taste. Jason leaned in, chuckled, and muttered, that looks like a Craigslist horror story. My mother took the phone next. Rachel, she sighed, why didn't you bring Megan along? She has such a good eye for decor. This place. She trailed off. My father added, looks like something out of a foreclosure auction. They all laughed. I didn't. I sat there, stunned. My fingers tightened around my napkin. My smile died a slow death in front of my family. These were the people I thought would be happy for me, proud, even. Instead, I was being mocked like I just announced I bought a shack under a bridge. No one asked about the mortgage. No one asked how I'd saved, no one even said congratulations. I sat therein. Eventually, I stood up. I should get going. Oh? Already? Mom asked, not even glancing up. Yeah, I've got stuff at home. Home. That word felt different now. I drove back in silence. No music. No podcasts. Just the hum of my tires and the dull ache in my chest. When I pulled into my parking space, I didn't move for a full 10 minutes. Then I went upstairs, shut the door behind me, and slid down to the floor. My chest cracked open, and everything I'd been holding in came pouring out. 8 years of effort. 8 years of dreaming. And they crushed it in 2 minutes. All I wanted was a little pride from the people who raised me. Instead, I got pity and mockery. It was the first time I truly realized I was on my own. And maybe, just maybe, that was a blessing in disguise. Jason's words echoed like a drumbeat in my head, very suitable for you, Rachel. I cried that night. Not the quiet, dignified kind of tears you see in movies. No, I sobbed hard, the kind that leaves your chest aching and your eyes raw. For over an hour, I sat on the cold hardwood floor of my new apartment, grieving a moment that was supposed to be joyful. All I wanted was for my family to say, we're proud of you. Instead, they laughed. They judged. They cut me down like I was nothing. But after the tears dried, something shifted. I got angry. Really angry. They didn't pay a single dollar toward this apartment. They didn't spend years living lean so they could save. They didn't show up to open houses or run numbers or walk neighborhoods in the rain. I did all of that. And they had the audacity to ridicule me? To hell with them. I stood up, wiped my face, and looked around at the bare walls and dusty floors. Yes, it needed work, a ton of it. But it had good bones, and more importantly, it was mine. The next morning, I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. After every long day at the office, I came home, changed into old jeans and a paint-streaked t-shirt, and chipped away at the transformation. I pulled out old cabinets, retiled the bathroom, sanded down the oak floors inch by inch. My arms ached. My knees were bruised. My bank account dipped lower than I was comfortable with, but I loved it. Every brushstroke, every nail, every blister was a declaration, you were wrong about me. For 4 solid weeks, I threw myself into that apartment like it was my full-time job. I didn't call my parents, they didn't call me. Honestly? I preferred the silence. No judgment. No snide comments. Just me, and the smell of fresh paint and lemon-scented floor polish. By the end of the month, the transformation was incredible. The once dingy, outdated unit now looked like something out of a design magazine. Clean white walls. Warm refinished hardwoods. A sage green kitchen that made me smile every time I walked in. I stood in the living room one night, wine glass in hand, and said aloud to no one, it's time. A housewarming party. Not just to celebrate, but, if I'm honest, to prove a point. I wanted them to see what I had created. I wanted them to eat their words. So, I sent a group text to my mom and Megan. Hey. I'm hosting a housewarming this Saturday at 5 p.m. Would love for you to come and see what I've done with the place. Here's the address. 2 hours later, Mom replied with a short, dry, "We'll be there." Megan's message was just as cold. "Sure, we'll come." "No, congratulations." "No, can I bring anything?" Not even a simple, "That's great, Rachel." Just obligation typed out in grayscale. Still, they said they'd come. That was something. Then I called the one person who'd always made me feel seen, Grandma Evelyn. She's 78, sharp as a tack, and still grows tomatoes in her backyard. When I was little, I'd spend entire weekends at her place, baking cookies and watching old black and white movies. I told her everything about the apartment, the work, the excitement, and the silence that followed. She listened like no one else did. "Oh honey," she said with warmth in her voice, "I am so proud of you. I'd love to come. I might be a little late, would 7 o'clock be okay?" 7 o'clock is perfect, Grandma." That call lifted something off my chest. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen. The rest of the week, I threw myself into planning. I ordered food from that cozy, Italian place. Mom loves chicken, parmesan, lasagna, Caesar salad. I bought a few bottles of wine, picked up dessert, and even bought fresh tulips for the kitchen table. I wanted everything to be perfect. Maybe it wasn't just a housewarming, maybe it was my way of finally saying, "Look at me. I built this, without you." I placed a vase of tulips in the center of the dining table, bright yellow against the soft gray tablecloth I'd ironed the night before. Every corner of the apartment gleamed. The kitchen counter sparkled, the floors were spotless, the couch fluffed, throw pillows arranged just right. I'd even lit a lavender candle near the entryway. It smelled like peace and fresh beginnings. By 4:30, everything was ready. The chicken parmesan was in the oven on warm, the lasagna was neatly plated, and the Caesar salad was chilling in the fridge. A bottle of Pinot Grigio sat in a silver ice bucket I'd borrowed from a coworker. I stood by the window, watching cars pass and counting the minutes. 5 o'clock came. And went. Nothing. At 5:15, I told myself they were just running late. At 5:30, I started to worry. Maybe they'd mixed up the address, even though I'd triple-checked it in the text. Maybe there was traffic on I-90. I refreshed my messages. Nothing. I called Mom. Straight to voicemail. Dad. Megan. Jason. Same thing, no ringing, just silence. By 6 o'clock, the hope started to curdle into dread. By 6:30, I was pacing. I opened and closed the front door twice just to check if anyone had parked nearby. Then, at 7 o'clock on the dot, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. "Hi Rachel. We're having dinner with Megan, Jason, and his parents at Chez Laurent right now. It's much more pleasant than being in your terrible apartment. Hope you understand." I read it once. Then again. Then again. Chez Laurent. The upscale French bistro downtown, where entrees start at $60 and the waitlist is weeks long. The same place Megan had once dreamed of going for her birthday, but couldn't swing without help. And now they were all there, together. Laughing. Toasting. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo from Megan. Mom. Dad. Megan. Jason. His parents. All gathered around a pristine white tablecloth, wine glasses raised, smiles plastered on their faces like a Norman Rockwell painting. The caption? "Family dinner so much better than expected." I sat down at the table, alone, with food I'd ordered for people who didn't even have the courtesy to cancel. My chest burned, my face went hot. But this time, I didn't cry out of rage. It was grief. That deep, hollow kind of grief when you finally realize the people you've been trying to impress will never love you the way you hoped they would. I opened the oven, pulled out the chicken parmesan, and set a plate for one. It was cold now, but I didn't care. I ate it anyway. Every bite was bitter. 30 minutes passed in a fog. Then came a knock at the door. For a moment, I froze, forgotten entirely that Grandma Evelyn was due at 7 o'clock. I wiped my face quickly, straightened up, and opened the door. There she was, standing in a pale blue cardigan, holding a beautifully wrapped gift and smiling like sunshine. "Oh, sweetheart," she said warmly, "sorry, I'm late. The traffic was awful." She stepped inside and handed me the gift. Inside was a stunning crystal vase, thick, heavy, etched in a delicate floral pattern. It shimmered under the ceiling light like something from a museum. "Grandma, this is gorgeous, thank you." But she didn't smile back. She was looking at me closely now. "Rachel, have you been crying?" I nodded. My throat tightened. So I told her. About the silence, the texts. The photo. The way they chose a linen napkin and duck confit over my freshly scrubbed apartment and open arms. I expected sympathy. Instead, I saw fire in her eyes. And that's when everything began to change. Grandma didn't just look upset, she looked like she was about to go full World War I too. Her cheeks flushed, her brows tight. I'd never seen that fire in her before. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, muttering, "I'm calling your father right now, I have plenty to say to that man." But just as quickly as she'd grabbed it, she paused. Then, without a word, slipped it back in her bag and looked at me with this slow, thoughtful smile, sharp, not sweet. "No," she said, smoothing the hem of her cardigan. "I've got a better idea." I blinked. "Better than ripping into Dad?" She gave me a look I'll never forget, like she was about to play a card she'd been holding for years. "Come sit, honey," she said, patting the couch beside her. I didn't just come here with a vase. Still holding that crystal gift in my lap, I eased down next to her. She reached into her purse again, this time pulling out a thick manila folder. Her voice softened. "Rachel, I've been watching you for years. You work hard, save every penny, fix things yourself. You never ask for help. And every time you got knocked down, you got right back up. You never made excuses." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat tightened as she placed the folder in my hands. Meanwhile, she continued, "Your sister's been handed everything on a silver platter. Your parents paid 30 grand for that wedding, remember, the one with the ice sculpture and string quartet? Then they helped her and Jason with their down payment. $15,000. Cash. And now she's got the nerve to mock your apartment?" I slowly opened the folder. Legal documents. Pages and pages of them. For a second, I didn't quite process what I was seeing until my eyes landed on the address at the top. The lake house. Grandma's summer home. The one with the cedar dock and wildflowers along the porch railing. The place I spent childhood summers chasing dragonflies and learning how to make fresh lemonade. It was mine. "It's yours now," she said softly. "I transferred the deed last week. The whole property, 2 acres, fully paid off, is under your name. It's worth about $400,000 these days." I stared at her, stunned. "You were going to give me a house?" She smiled and nodded. "I was planning to announce it at your party tonight. I even had a whole little speech prepared. And to be fair, I was also going to give Megan $250,000 in cash. A house for you, some financial breathing room for her. I wanted to bless you both. But they didn't show up," I whispered. "They humiliated you," Grandma said flatly. "So guess what? Megan gets nothing." I choked on a laugh. "Are you serious?" She didn't even blink. "Dead serious." And then she reached into her bag one more time, this time pulling out her checkbook. Right there on my freshly cleaned couch, she clicked her pen, scribbled out a check, and handed it to me like it was a receipt from the grocery store. $250,000. Made out to me. "That should take care of most of your mortgage," she said. "You'll sleep easier with a $300 payment instead of $1,500. I was crying again, but this time they were the kind of tears that felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Grandma, why would you do all this for me?" She cupped my hand in both of hers. "Because you earned it. Because you've shown me what strength really looks like, and because no one who loves you should make you feel small." She stood up, took the house deed from the folder, and smiled slyly. "Now, let's take a picture. I want the whole world to see what family should look like." And that's exactly what we did. "Post it," Grandma said, handing me the deed with a look that could cut glass. I hesitated. "Post it where?" "Social media. All of it." I blinked. "Why?" She gave me a smile I'd never seen before. Not warm. Not sweet. This one had bite. Like a CEO about to close a ruthless deal. Because your family needs to understand one simple truth: actions have consequences. So, I took the picture. Grandma held up the house deed, her arm wrapped around me. We both smiled like it was Christmas morning. I posted it on Instagram and Facebook with the caption, "My amazing grandmother just gave me the most incredible gift, her beautiful lake house." Feeling overwhelmed, blessed, and beyond grateful. The response was instant. Within 5 minutes, my phone was buzzing like a beehive. Heart emojis, fire emojis, congratulations from coworkers, college friends, even a few neighbors I hadn't spoken to in months. Everyone said the same thing. "You deserve this. What a wonderful grandmother. So happy for you, Rachel." Grandma looked at the screen, satisfied. Perfect. Now we wait. She stayed for another hour, sipping wine and chatting about the lake house, how she wanted me to repaint the shutters, which local bakery made the best pies, where the turtles nested by the dock in spring. We didn't talk about my parents. Not once. And honestly, that was the best part. When she left, I sat alone on my couch, holding the check in one hand and the deed in the other. Just a few hours earlier, I was sobbing over cold chicken parmesan, feeling like an invisible daughter. Now? I owned a $400,000 lakefront property, and had $250,000 to nearly wipe out my mortgage. I went to bed that night with something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Real, grounded, soul-deep peace. At 8 a.m. the next morning, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls. Mom. Dad. Megan. Jason. And I didn't even need to ask why. I rolled over, turned my phone to silent, and pulled the covers over my head with a grin. By 9 o'clock, the text messages started flooding in. And they weren't subtle. "Mom, Rachel, I don't know what you told Grandma Evelyn, but you need to fix this right now. Megan, you're such a selfish bastard. That house should go to someone who has a family. Dad, your grandmother has clearly lost her mind. We're coming over today to talk some sense into you. Megan, again, you probably manipulated her. You should be ashamed of yourself." I read every message, then calmly took screenshots of each one. Especially the ones where they insulted me, questioned Grandma's mental capacity, or accused me of scheming. Every single digital dagger saved. By 4 p.m. there was pounding on my door. I peeked through the peephole. Mom and Megan, red-faced and scowling. "Rachel." Mom barked. "Open the door. We know you're in there." I didn't even blink. I spoke calmly, through the door. "You're late to my housewarming party. And last I checked, this apartment was too terrible for you to step foot in." Megan's voice cut through like a siren. "You don't need that house. You don't even have a family." "I'm pregnant, Rachel. I need that house, for my baby." I laughed. Loud and shameless. "Well, congratulations. But I'm still not giving you the house." There was a pause. Then Mom hissed, "If that's how you feel, we don't consider you family anymore." I nearly choked on my own laughter. "Great," I said. "Then stop acting like you're entitled to my life." I turned the television up and let them bang on the door until they got tired and left. 2 days later, Grandma called. "Rachel, I'm having a little gathering tomorrow evening. Family only. Be here at 6 o'clock. Her voice was steel. I pulled into her driveway the next evening, right on time. Through the front window, I could see them all, Mom, Dad, Megan, and Jason sitting stiffly on the couch like they were waiting to be sentenced. As soon as I stepped inside, Megan shot up like a volcano, ready to blow. "She manipulated you," she cried, pointing at me. "She tricked you into giving her that house." Grandma didn't flinch. "Sit down." Megan sat, arms folded, glaring daggers at me. Grandma stood at the front of the room like a general addressing her troops. "I called this meeting because I have something to say. Your behavior toward Rachel at her housewarming and in the aftermath was disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful." And in that moment, I knew the reckoning had officially begun. "Absolutely disgusting," Grandma said, her voice as sharp as broken glass. Dad opened his mouth. "Now wait a minute. No, David. You wait. Her eyes narrowed, her tone steel. You promised your daughter you'd show up for one of the biggest moments of her life. Instead, you all went to a 5-star restaurant and sent her pictures like it was some kind of joke. Mom tried to chime in, wringing her hands. We didn't think. No, Karen. You didn't, Grandma snapped. That's exactly the problem. You didn't think about how cruel it was to abandon your daughter on a night that should have been full of pride and celebration. The room went quiet. I felt my heart pounding in my ears. Then Grandma turned slightly toward me, her tone softening. I was planning to give Rachel the house publicly that night, at her party, she said. And I had a second envelope ready too. Megan, she turned to my sister, I was going to give you a check for $250,000, a gift to help your growing family. A house for Rachel, financial security for you, fair. Megan's eyes widened like she'd been slapped. You were going to give me what? But you couldn't even be bothered to show up for your sister, Grandma said. You chose to sip Chardonnay and pose for photos instead. So, no. You get nothing. Megan bolted to her feet, tears welling up. I'm pregnant. How is it fair that Rachel gets everything and I get nothing? Life isn't fair, Grandma said calmly. But it's especially unfair when people act selfishly and expect to be rewarded for it. Mom and Dad sat frozen, stunned into silence. You can't do this, Mom finally whispered. Megan needs help more than Rachel, she's expecting a child. Grandma turned to her like a judge, delivering a verdict. Really? Did Megan spend 8 years saving every dollar? Did she spend nights and weekends fixing up a place on her own? With no help from anyone? Number. You paid for her wedding. You gave her and Jason $15,000 for a down payment. Meanwhile, Rachel was scraping by, doing it all herself, and you all laughed in her face. The silence was suffocating. Grandma slowly sat down in her favorite wingback chair and looked at each of them. And just so we're clear, I still have plenty of property, more than enough assets to rewrite my will. In fact, I could remove certain names entirely if I choose. The air shifted. Mom's face turned pale. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear. Megan's eyes filled with panic. I'll be watching all of you, Grandma said coldly. How you treat Rachel, how you behave going forward. I've changed my will before. I'll do it again if I need to. Megan began to cry harder. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. I finally stood up. My voice didn't shake. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about the texts you sent me. The ones where you called me manipulative. Selfish. A bastard. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots. Here. You said Grandma had lost her mind. That I didn't deserve the house, that I tricked her. You insulted me and the woman who raised you better than this. Grandma leaned forward and took my phone, scrolling through the messages. Her face darkened. You said this about me? She asked, her voice quiet. That I was too old to think straight? That Rachel manipulated me? Nobody said a word. Well, she said, handing me back the phone. I guess that answers my question about the will. No one protested. No one apologized. Eventually, they stood up and walked out without saying a single word. After they left, Grandma and I stayed in her cozy living room for over an hour. We sipped coffee, laughed about old memories, and talked about plans for the lake house. She promised to come help me decorate the guest room. For the first time in years, I felt grounded, like I wasn't the forgotten one anymore. The following week, I took the check to the bank. My mortgage went from $1,500 a month down to just under $300. Breathing room I hadn't had in years. That weekend, I drove out to the lake house for the first time since college. It was even more beautiful than I remembered. The dock still faced west, the pine trees still lined the road. I stood on the porch and took a deep breath of crisp lake air and changed all the locks. Just in case. 2 weeks later, my phone lit up again. Mom was calling. She left a voicemail inviting me to Sunday dinner. Said she wanted us to be a close family again. I laughed and deleted it without a second thought. We were never a close family, I whispered. You're just scared Grandma's going to leave you with nothing. I blocked the number. Now, I talk to Grandma every week. We go to brunch, we bake, we sit on the porch of the lake house with iced tea and talk about everything from real estate to resilience. She's the only family I need. As for the rest of them, they can keep their caviar and their performative toasts. I've got peace, a paid-off house, and someone who actually shows up. And that, to me, is real wealth. This story is a powerful reminder that real worth isn't defined by others' approval, but by your own perseverance, integrity, and the relationships that truly matter. Rachel's journey shows the value of self-reliance, 8 years of sacrifice, determination, and hard work that no one could take away from her. It also highlights a painful truth many face in adulthood: not all family will celebrate your success, and sometimes the people you expect to support you will be the first to tear you down. Yet, in that betrayal lies clarity. Rachel discovered that unconditional love and recognition can come from those who see your effort and character, not just from blood ties. Her grandmother's actions prove that genuine care is shown through presence, encouragement, and fairness, not empty words or selective generosity. For middle-aged readers navigating complex family dynamics, the takeaway is clear: invest in yourself, honor your boundaries, and treasure the people who show up for you. Wealth is not just measured in money or property, it's the peace, security, and respect that come from building a life on your own terms, with those who truly value you standing beside you.